All right, we're on this morning. Good. Okay. I'm going to start the learning sponsors in a moment, but I do want to remind everyone that today being the 19th, that we've got about a little under 2 weeks in which we will finish Nazir and then start Sota. So the very end of March, we'll be starting Sota. So Heshi, you're going to be around then? Right? Okay, so the question is, the point is, we finish Sota on Friday, March 31st.
No, you mean Nazir.
I mean Nazir, that's what I meant. We finish Nazir on Friday. Actually, that's the first day we start Sota. So we finish Thursday the 30th. Okay, so you and your committee will start looking into okay, what to do for Siyum. So that Siyum would be Thursday the 30th, I assume?
Yes. Probably early, mid-afternoon.
Well, that's, we'll give it,
Unless we do another breakfast.
that's
No
what
way.
we're saying.
No way. No.
Well, we gotta discuss it. Anyway, that's Sota's the next, so we start that.
Yeah.
We start Sota on Friday, March 31st.
Right.
And a reminder then that after Sota will be Gittin. Okay, and that will be and that will be finished on the 17th of of May. Okay, so I'm going to ask. I may ask for the 18th and 19th for my chaverim here to help out that Thursday and Friday. Okay, maybe Ruben would do Thursday and you might do Friday.
Whatever you want.
Okay. That's when we're supposed to be moving. That's why I asked. Okay, no, it's
Not
with,
moving at 8 in the morning.
be surprised.
Mordechai, he doesn't
Be
make.
surprised.
He makes the carry in front of him.
Oh, you mean you want us to help you schlep?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna give each of you a box of svarim to carry over.
Yeah, you give me a little red wagon to pull them in.
No, I got wagons, I've got carts, one of those shopping baskets, okay? All right, but just, my wife was already telling me, you think you can get somebody to cover the daf that morning? Okay, learning sponsors, a year of learning, Isaac and Evelyn Blachor, in memory of his sister, Chaya Rachel Bas Issa, friends of Leonie Meisman, Leah Sabra Bas Chanuk Zundel, friends of Mela Skotsky, Moshe Zelig ben Mordechai, Martin Lippman and family, in memory of his wife, Malka Chana Bas Pinchas, friends of Herb Jeremiah, Tzvi ben Ze'ev, friends of Sam Coleman, Shmuel ben Yaakov, friends of Gideon Lazinski, Mordechai Shlomo ben Meir. We have a month of learning by Josh and Carol Sanborn, in memory of his mother Chiena Bas Aryeh Leib and his father Shmuel Aryeh ben Baruch. Be Pizer in memory of her mother Razel Bat Shammai. Leo and Tova Zimmer in memory of his father Tzvi ben Israel and his mother Yocheved Bat Yaakov Menachem Mendel. Malin Haran Haller in memory of his mother Frege Bas Yaakov. Be Pizer in memory of her stepfather Avram Michal ben Shmuel Halevi. Jill and Perry Meltzer in memory of her father Yaakov ben Yosef. Andrea and David Dolney in memory of her mother Edel Tzina Bas Shimshon. Friends and students of Rabbi Shalom Kornblum in memory of Harav Shalom ben Mordechai. We have a week of learning by Minnie Shavrik in memory of her husband Yeshayahu ben Nechemia Mordechai. Evelyn and Isaac Blachor in memory of her mother, Perel Rivka Bat Harav Menachem Mendel Eliezer. Hershey and Leah Mendelssohn in memory of his father Baruch ben Avram Tzvi. Kayla Hainel in memory of her father, Chaim Yehuda Leib ben Betzalel. Then we have a day of learning today by Henry and Bonnie Steinman, in memory of his father, Tzvi ben Chaim, by Corinne Greenwald, in memory of her father, Mordechai ben Yechiel Meir. Shema is having a Aliyah, Crank Rafia, Velti Yeshua, Shema Aliyah, L'chol B'nai Israel, a good bench. Okay. Harvey is on, and so is Mike, right? Okay. Okay, gentlemen, let's, what I want to do is quickly just do a quick review and then into today's stuff and start the beginning of tomorrow's, only because while Nun Vav seems to be short, Nun Vav Amud Beis is rather long. Okay. Okay, so on Nun Hey Amud Beis. Okay. Nun Hey Amud Beis, right? I'm sorry. That's what I meant. Nun Daled Amud Beis. Okay. Is what I meant, right? We see the following, right? Hachinami mistam midikatani v'kelim hanogim b'meit hani kelim b'nei haza'in, who asks the Gemara. In other words, trying to find out the question that was raised earlier about Eretz Ha'amim. The machloket had been whether it was because of the air, okay, which means that they did not want Jews to leave Eretz Yisrael, or because of the land, because there was, who knows where there were graves and things like that in the land, okay? So that was the machloket between Rabbi Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, okay? And then it went on to say that, raised the question, if you said it was the land, why do we need to say any kind of spritzing, so to speak? Because that's really only for coarse tumor, right? So therefore, it must be because of the issue of the land, okay? Which we said again meant clearly that it was a problem with where there could have been corpses, okay? Any burials. Hachanami Mustabra, this seems logical. Again, why? Because we're saying midikatani b'kelim hanogim b'meit. We were talking about non-metal utensils that could have had some contact with the corpse, right? Hani kelim b'nei haza'an inhun. Ask them, are these utensils really viable because you think you can sprinkle them? That's the problem. Elashmamina ashara. But here we learn what we're talking about. Only some of the others does this apply to. In other words, right? So now we come back now to today's stuff. Nun Hey, right? Lema k'tana'ai, says the Gemara. Shall we say that this machloket is similar to an earlier machloket Tana'im? Okay. Namely the following. Hanichnas la'eretz ha'amim. One who enters the non-Jewish lands, in other words, the neighboring lands of Eretz Yisrael, b'sheda, which we're going to translate could be either as a carriage or a kind of a box or chest, right? B'teva, again, it could be a box of some kind. Umigdal, a cabinet, perhaps. Rebbe Mitame, according to Rebbe, he says in that situation, the individual can still become Tameh. V'Rebbe Yossi b'Rebbe Yehuda Metahe. And Rebbe Yossi b'Rebbe Yehuda disagrees and says, no, the person still remains Tahor because they are, I'm going to say the word theoretically, totally enclosed, okay, and therefore would have no contact with the tomb.
You mean they come in as a dead person?
No, they are in some sort of a container, like, let's call it, I'm going to use the word example, carriage, because I'm gonna use that later on in the Gemara too.
Only with a carrot.
Okay, well, we think of a carriage normally like the Cinderella story, okay? But
It's like our
that's,
car.
okay, but think of it like some sort of like it was a chair that was totally carried, and it was carried by servants on their shoulders. Think of that. It's totally theoretically totally enclosed. What?
Sedan chair.
Sedan chair. There was other terms used to describe. I can't remember.
Chariot.
I think the Greek term was actually a paladin, but that's something else. Anyway, so what happens? Okay, my love, Rabbi Savar Mishum Avira, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Savar Mishum Gusha. Okay, do we say that if it's like a Tanaitic argument, it's because Rebbe holds that it was based on the air, not wanting people to leave Eretz Yisrael, and Rebbe Yossi held, on the other hand, it was the land because of all the graves? No, says the Gemara. The Kuli Alma Mishum Gusha. No, that both really Rebbe and Rebbe Yossi hold that it's because of the land. And what's the concern? Mar Savar Ohel Zaruk Shmei Ohel. That one holds that a moving tent, I'll translate it that way, okay, is still a valid kind of ohel, still a valid container, and therefore would protect the person from becoming tam. Umar Savar Lo Shmei Ohel. And the other master holds that that a moving tent is not going to be a viable protection from tumah. Okay, based on what? Vahatanya. But aren't we taught elsewhere? Okay, and it's in Gemara Ohalot that all of these Mishnayot and Braitot are found. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda Omer, what does he say? Teva. Here again, a chest or a trunk. Shehi Malei Kelim, that's full of utensils. V'zarka al pnei hamet ba'ohel, and it's thrown over a corpse in a tent.
The word ohel doesn't.
I was going to get to that in a second, but there's a question about the lashon there of whether you need the word ba'ohel in that state, in that braita. Okay, it doesn't really need to be there, and so some of the Rishonim did not even actually have it in their text. Okay, Tme'ah, that kind of a, let's call it a moving or flying ohel tent, is not considered valid because it does not really cover the mace. It's not, in a sense, attached to the ground. V'im hayta munachat, but if it was such that it was resting there over the mace, tahora, then whatever would be inside of it would be considered tahor. Right? Ella, rather, says the Gemara, and here Ella again is a question of what language. Are we giving an alternative? Or no, we're really saying, okay, we're not totally throwing aside the previous point. The kuli alma mishum avira. Maybe we're saying, on the other hand, that they both really agree that the concern is for the airspace. Umar Savar, and one master holds, Kevan de lo shchicha, since it's not common. What's not common, we're going to see in a moment. Okay, Lo Gazru Be Rabbanan, that the rabbis, since it's not a common situation, and the situation is whether a person would stick their arm or their head or some part of them. Okay,
No, the person would go in
No,
a,
what's
in a
not
clothes
common,
in a.
Right.
normal travel.
we're going to get it.
on an
We're going to
animal.
get to that in a second. Okay, right? Shalosh shachicha, that is where it's not a common situation, that the rabbis would not make such a decree. Umar Savar, and the other holds Afal Gav de lo shchicha, even though it's not common, Gazru Be Rabbanan, the rabbis would make such a decree. So what happens? What do we understand by this situation? Vahatanya. But aren't we taught elsewhere in another bright? Hanichnas la'eretz ha'amim b'sheda teva umigdal. Okay, this bright is telling us that one who does enter the next land, Gentile lands, either, let's say, in a carriage or something, or a box, or a cabinet, right? Tahor would be tahor. Bekaron, but were they to travel into those lands in a wagon, ubisfina, or a kind of boat, uba iskariya, which could be translated as a kind of raft or boat with a mast, okay? Okay, sfina there really might refer to a raft, all right? Tameh, they would be tameh, because there's a difference here between the more common form of human transportation or a less common form of human transportation. The fear is that in a more common form of transportation, the person might have their arm or look out, okay, to see, okay, the area there, okay? Why? Hacha shema yotzi rosho v'rubo l'sham plige. Because there, with a more common form of transportation, they might stick out their head or part of their body, okay? And that's what they're arguing about, right? Maybe that's the issue, right? Vahatanya. But wait a second, says the Gemara. Haven't we learned in a different bright? Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda Omer, he says, Hanichnas la'eretz ha'amim b'sheda teva umigdal. One who enters the foreign Gentile lands in a, let's say, cabinet, a box, or a some kind of a chest, tahor ad shiotzi l'sham rosho o rubo. Okay, so since this last brighter brings up the very specific issue of distinguishing between more common transportation and less common transportation, maybe that's the basis in which their machloket is, and we can't say then that the machloket between Rebbe and Rebbe Yossi is based simply on airspace or on land.
The second brisa is a riot to land.
Okay,
Because when you
well,
stick
that's
yourself
what I'm
out of
saying.
the window of the carriage,
That would
you
be the way they
create
would
your own-
become tam.
This
Okay.
is the general question. When one of the rabbis says something, then another rabbi says, I learned it in another Gemara. Does he say that right away? It could be years later. What is
Both.
Both.
Okay,
And then they-
depends if they're the same generation. If they're the same generation, then they could have challenged each other, okay, within the same time frame. Okay, if, however, it's multiple generations, okay, then when they review the issue, okay, in their learning in the base midrash, somebody could have said, well, you know, so and so said. I mean, think of the example of Rava and Abaye. All right, Rava and Abaye were fourth generation Amoraim, but that doesn't mean that they're not recorded here in the Gemara as challenging and discussing items that came to them in a Masorah from a first or second generation. We take the view that the Gemara was edited generally by Ravina and Ravash. Okay, further editing was done according to some the generation after that. How do we know that? Because we see that Mar Bareb Ravina is cited in the Gemara, and he's the next generation. Okay.
But somewhere between the year what we call 500 and 550.
Then it was finalized.
More or less. There was Sibirayim who made additional emendations
Right.
as late as maybe the year 600.
Right. Okay. So, for example, when you see certain phrases in the Gemara that indicate that, as Michael is suggesting, that that's really an editorial note. The Katani, for example, some would argue that it was, they didn't need it because they were just cited. Okay, they knew the Chumash by heart. Okay, they probably knew most of the Tanakh by heart. Okay, so what happens? So when the Gemara cites a phrase like that, or other kinds of what might be considered editorial statements, that would have been done by the generation of Ravina Rav Ashi, and the generation that followed them, the Sabaraim. Ultimately, the Gaonim, okay, were such that they accepted the text of the Gemara, but we still see, you look at Art Scrolls notes, and it'll tell you, okay, that Rosh had one version of a Braita, and somebody else, Tosafot, could have had a slightly different version.
There were no printing press.
Right.
So people transcribed things.
So these guys knew everything by heart.
Just about.
The whole Gemara.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's why it was Torah Shabbat. Okay.
Rev, does a Goyish and Mace generate tumor?
People today still know.
I would say that by direct contact, yes, but not in Ohel. Mas and Maga, yes, sure, but not through Ohel. That's a difference, right?
Still, he learns 12 hours a day.
All right, let's go on. Umadchil umoneh. So now we get to a new topic from our Mishnah, right? It says that in a sense, he immediately begins counting.
This
What-
is the guy who has
right?
decided.
So what are we talking about here? Okay, Amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda, Lo Shana Ela B'Nizirut Mu'etet. This was only taught in regards to what we'll call a short, right, or an abbreviated, in other words, one term, right, a 30-day term. That's his suggestion. Ava B'Nizirut Meruba, but with an extended term of Nizirut, Misalek Nami Salkinle, that it does count towards it, right, towards his Nizirut.
Even
Right.
the days he was in
The days that, in other words, let's assume, as we're going to get to the Gemara shortly, he started his Nizirut. Well, I'm going to throw out, say he said 60 days, I'm doing 2 months, 2 terms, 60 days. Okay, and all of a sudden, on day 15, something happened. Okay, so what happens at that point? He has to go through as a mitzvah, he has to go through all his purification. All right, and so he's got 7 days, right? That,
Well, he's got at least 8 days. of
well, we'll get that.
Shabbos.
All right, he's got the 7 days of his situation. He's got to get sprinkled. Okay, he's got to, at the end, he's got to shave. All right, he's got to, right, that's the case. And then he's got to bring his offerings. And then, right,
Nazir or Mitzvah?
a Nazir who became a Mitzvah. Okay, what happens then? What about those 7 days? Do they get counted towards his Naziris or not? Okay, that's part of the question. That, right? So what happens there? Okay, so his Rav Chisda's suggestion is, all right, right, that only applies the question to a short period, not long. Okay, a long period, it would be different. Okay, Meitiv Rav Shravya, and Rav Shravya now challenges him with the following: Matchil umoneh miyad. Our Mishnah says that he does count immediately. Ve'ein mevatel bahen at the kodmin, but that seems to imply that it does not nullify those earlier days.
That's the text of the Mishnah.
Okay, that would seem to be all come from the Mishnah. But what are we talking about? If we're talking about a short term, in other words, a single term, 30-day term, all right, what happens then? Kav A, Yidu Se'ah. Don't we need, however, a 30-day period for him to be able to finish his Nazirut? Okay, before he could even, in other words, his hair has to grow long enough so that then he can finish his Nazirut. Okay, so how can you argue that you're only talking about a short-term mela? Okay, so what happens? Ella, says the Gemara, as we go on. Lav b'nazirut meruba. Therefore, Rav Shravya is arguing we must be talking about a longer term, like the example I gave of 60. Why? Because it happened on day 15. Okay, all right, and then he had to go through his whole the 7 days, purification, etc., etc. Okay, but what happens then?
The Mitzvah termination process is shave your whole body
You
on
shave.
day one.
Right, then
Shave
you
your
go
whole
through this.
body again on
Well, wait,
day
wait, hold on. You shave. Then he's got to get spritzed on the 3rd day and the 7th day. Then he's got to shave again. All right, so it's shave, wait a week, and during that week he gets spritzed, day 3 and day 7. And then after he shaved the 2nd time, the next day, he's got to bring his offerings.
and Reb
That would be the 23rd.
So that's already 8 days.
23
plus
days.
however many days he was a Mitzvah.
Okay, so that's why I'm saying, given the example I gave. So 15 and 8 equals 23.
And you've left, but he also has at least 8 days
Okay.
of Saras. He has to go to a Kohen. He
Right,
has to come back a week later.
right.
So
So you've
that's
gotta-
another 8 days.
That's another 8 days. So now what do we get?
31.
31.
So it's
Whoa,
impossible.
wait. That's why I picked, wait a minute. So that's 31 days. So how many days does he have left from his 60?
21.
Nothing.
29. He doesn't have enough because he doesn't have the 30 days to let his hair grow.
But no, Rav Chisda says you count the days of the Mitzvah
But-
termination process. in the
And
count.
that situation, that's what the argument is about,
You don't count the first 15 days.
Count them.
right? That's part of what the argument is. Do you count those early days? Or do you count the days in between or not? Okay,
In
so
our
what happens?
example, you do, because the point is that as long as he has 30 days after whatever he has to go through.
Okay,
if
that's
they
what we're
all
going
the
to see.
Previous days qualify.
They
to
do
be
add
part of
them.
the six.
We'll get to that in a second.
So can you grow his hair in 29 days?
No.
No, you need 30.
That's
days.
why I gave that specific example.
Unless you
Okay.
rub on that.
Ukatani.
stuff, right?
Okay, and our Mishnah teaches, "Matchilim onem miyad," but our Mishnah teaches that he begins immediately. So what are we talking about? Okay, so it was Rav Shravya who challenged, and now the Gemara is going to tell us who motivla, v'hu mefarekla. He was the one who brought the challenge, but he's also the one who's going to bring the answer. Okay, and what is his example? Benizirut bat chamishim yom. He chooses an example of somebody who's a Nazir who chose a term of 50 days. That's why I chose 60. You'll see one. All right,
Because you're not.
that's right. Diativ Estrin, and he says what happens? That he did 20 of the, right, 50 days. Right? What happens? Ve'it Yelida Beit Sarah. And then he develops Sara'at on day 20. Okay? What happens then? He still then has to go through the whole process. So how many days is that? Okay, wait a second.
That's irrelevant.
Okay, so what happens then?
8 days.
All right,
It's irrelevant.
all right. What happens? Megaleach Sara'ato. He shaves the bite, really should have shaves twice then for saras, one at the beginning, one at towards the end. Vahadar yativ tlatin yomin denazir. And then he would come and sit his 30 days of the Nazir,
So the first 20 plus the 30 equal his 50.
50, right? Okay, that is Rav Shravya's explanation. Okay, the 20 that counted, he got the tzara, the days in between don't count, okay, and then the other days do count. Okay, daha itle gidul se'ar. Why? Because he has finished enough time, the 30 days for his hair to grow, which again is the minimal term of Nazirut. Okay, got to keep that in mind. Now, what happens? Meitiv Rami Bar Chama. Okay, so Rami Bar Chama, I know this is Rami Bar Chama now raises the following question.
Right.
Okay, Nazir Shahayat Tameh B'Safek. We have a Nazir who became Tameh out of doubt. Umuchlat B'Safek. And he's a confirmed Mitzorah.
Out of that.
Okay, out of doubt. Okay, what is his status? Okay, absolutely. Okay, we're going to go now. I am not going to go through all of this whole thing. I will tell you Art Scroll, if you're using Art Scroll, you need to read the note. That's like a page and a half, okay, on this. But I will give you a shortened version. Okay, interesting that, all right, anyway. So what does he say in this case? Ochel b'kedoshim lachar shishim yom. Okay, given all the doubt as to what his situation is, and that he has to wait, okay, till he can finish his Naziris, okay, and all of these other things to do the other things, because it's a doubt, what has to be done? He can't eat kodshim until 60 days. V'shotei yayin u'mitamei lametim lachar me'av ve'esrim yom. And that's
30 days.
that's what?
This is
And
when
this
you
is
start.
based on his having selected a single term of Nazareth, because he doesn't know, okay, what his situation is. Okay, so since he doesn't know, okay, and if let's say he shaves, I'll give an example, quick example. What is he shaving for? Is he shaving because of the question of his being the Mitzorah, and therefore he has to wait and then shave again? Or does he shave because he's not sure if he's a Mitzorah, and therefore is he shaving to finish his Naziris? But if he's shaving for his Naziris, is he shaving because he was a Tameh, or if he's shaving because he's finished his Naziris?
And if he can't shave, if it's a suffix.
That's right. Right,
It's incredibly.
right,
sharp
okay,
charge.
that's from you. Vatani Allah, and then we taught about this, all right? Bamed varim amorim, what are we talking about? Benizirut mu'etet, and this has to be only in a situation where he chose a limited Nizirut of a 30-day term. Ava benizirut bat shana, let's assume he took a long-term Nizirut, okay, of a year. What is it? Ochel b'kedoshim lachar shtei shanim. He given this back and forth, okay, and not knowing for sure whether he's shaving for tameh, shaving for being a not a nazir tameh, but a nazir, a regular nazir, or if he's shaving questionably for mitzorah or not shaving for mitzorah, and back and forth, all of this, right? He has to 2 years, right? Lachar shtei shanim v'shotei, that's for the kodshim, v'shotei yayin u'mitamei lametim lachar arba shanim, after 4 years. And we're going to stop right there.
Does the 30-day become 120?
No. It doesn't. We'll learn that tomorrow.
Okay, when you look at, okay, look, the note in Art Scroll, okay, is a very, it goes into a lot of detail. Okay, Koren explains the same thing in about a paragraph or two. All right, but what? Because it works it right into the translation, is what it does. Okay, okay, but what it points out is, again, is since he's a safek, all right, it's a doubt. So the question is, what is he shaving for? Okay, well, that's what we're going to get to. Right, a Matzorah we know has to shave, right? Right, but his status of Matzorah is questionable. The Nazir, okay, has a prohibition of shaving, right? But a Nazir does have to shave, right, at some point. If he's Tameh, he has to shave, right, to finish, to get rid of his tumah, Then-
Even though he's a Nazir.
okay, even though he's a Nazir, and therefore he has to wait, right, his purification. Then he begins his Nizirut again, and then he shaves his head after the 30 days, right?
So that would be 67 days.
Okay, so you have this situation, so you have, in a sense, a double suffix here. Whether he's shaving as a Nazir Tameh, or he's shaving as a regular Nazir, or he's just shaving as a Metzora, okay, and at what point?
So you have to do the same thing all over again, so it becomes 120.
First of all, you have to wait till your Nazirus is up.
That's the whole, that's
Ronnie
the
is gonna
first.
be the barber by the Pesach. Oh, well, don't worry about it.
All right.
He's the chief barber.
Yes,
This is a no, it's no problem. If you're a Nazir, you're a Nazir for life.
okay,
I have this.
Actually,
all right, that's
Why-
from
You,
you'll never be able to.
have it.
Once a
You know how
year,
long ago I got it.
Nazir Shehiyat Tameh B'Safek Umuchlat B'Safek Yiro B'Yom Rishon Rishon Shel Nazir. Oh, Ve'ir'u, and it
This is the
occurred,
next stop.
right, I know,
Yeah,
right? Oh, so these got his whole list.
so maybe that'll help you. I don't know.
All right, let me
We'll
look
know.
it over and I'll
Okay.
give it back to you.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
You know, it costs a haircut.
He went with Reb Moshe, so.
Ah, I'm sure, I'm
Okay.
sure.
And you won't have to pay.
But it,
No. Okay. Mordecai, I see you outside.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
you know why the barbers have a red and white?
Because they were
Blood,
served.
blood, yeah. That's right.
That represents.
Not this morning, thank
Ronnie
you.
is our barber.
Uh-huh.
I think I was skeptical that when the guy started.
So you're gonna be in Memphis for Pesach or?
May 15th, Mr. Congression thing pitched.
Yeah. In Lakewood?
So he's from Memphis, and she's from Memphis.
Oh, yeah.
So then, 18th, we fly to Memphis. My daughter's being honored by the school, kindergarten through the school. On the 21st, we'll come back on the 22nd. What do you want to say?
We're gonna be with our son over by BRS for the first day. Uh-huh. Good morning, Mrs. Green.
It's getting harder and harder. What?
Working out here, Gary. Yeah. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, how are you? Please.
wait, you would have been waiting.